Yo, what's up guys? Hope you guys are doing good. So today we are going to see what if Naruto got harem with Kushina and Mito part 1. Hope you will enjoy this video. So before we start, please like the video and subscribe to our channel and hit bell notification. It motivates me to upload more fanfic for my lovely audience. So let's get started. Thunder shattered the ominous silence in the air. A forest littered with trees was assaulted by harsh rain. Wildlife was nowhere to be seen, hidden in the safety of natural shelter. A figure stood in the middle of a gargantuan clearing, which was damaged with a visible hole in the middle. Broken and burned trees cleared the vicinity. The figure wore a cloak, his true identity hidden by a white mask decorated with circular patterns, 2 holes at each side intended to provide space for eyes and 1 hole above them. He held in his left hand a baby in a pink blanket, cradled securely, as if the child's safety was very important. Supported on his right shoulder, draped like a sack of potatoes, was a red-headed woman. Her body was bloodied, scads of red lines streamed down her legs, her midsection, her arms and her head. She seemed dead to the world. The masked man looked to the ground as rain continued its assault. He had remained silent for what seemed like hours before. Finally, he spoke. "You were very impressive, Minato. In my planning, I had failed to take your sacrifice into account. It was neglected on my part." The figure looked around, taking note of the copious amounts of destruction. The land looked like the aftermath of a war. Well, they had indeed been a war, both won and lost. People had died, extinguishing their lives, also their village could continue to live off them. To use them to prosper itself into a strong entity. What rubbish, the masked figure thought. He looked down again, staring intently at a spot as he continued his talk. "As Hokage, you have made your village proud and succeeded in cementing yourself as their legacy. But as a father and husband, you have failed your family. In the end, you chose the village over your own children." The man was replied by rain splatter and the occasional roar of thunder, nothing else. He sighed to himself. "All you have done is postpone the inevitable. Konaha will fall, no matter how much you fought for your selfish ideals." The man looked at the baby in his hands. It was a girl, enclosed by a pink blanket. She had been crying a few moments prior. But now, she slept soundly. That was good for the masked man. He did not need any unnecessary crying. The silence was much more welcomed. Shut your eyes to the world, for when you truly open them again, a new world of peace will greet you. That was his ultimate goal, and it was becoming more achievable each second. "Your death was unfortunate, Minato. However, I will not be deterred. This world shall know true happiness and peace, and I will use any means to achieve this. One day, you'll understand and come to forgive me." The masked man turned his gaze slightly, eyeing a blue blanket that was slowly getting soaked. There was a bundle in there, but he made no move to help it. "The child will be my instrument to Konaha's destruction. The demon feeds off of rage and anguish. What better way to fuel a boy's anger than a mother's betrayal?" He briefly turned his gaze to the woman on his shoulders, her face hidden on his back. "Yes, she will be instrumental to true peace." The man's posture stiffened. His ears could pick up distinct footsteps driven by urgency. He could hear people converging on this very spot. Soon, the place would be filled with unwanted visitors. He had wasted enough energy as it was. He could not stay here. He made to leave, but decided to give some parting words. "Do not worry, Minato. I promise that Kushina will not be harmed, nor will her little girl. They will grow to love as a family and return to your village. That is the most I will give you. They are important to my mission, however, so I cannot just leave them be yet." He took a quick glance at the baby boy again. "The boy will be left to this village's disposal, your village. They may grow to love him or hate him, but all will be the same when the child reaches the right age. Your family have a great task to perform. I hope you're proud. I bid you farewell, sensei." And with that, he shot into the trees, swiftly camouflaging himself with the accustomed darkness. The clearing was silent once again. The baby lay motionless in the wet blanket. Beside it was another body, bloodied and prone. It was a man, his blonde hair mashed with blood and his shinobi attire was incalculably tattered. His eyes were open, gray and lifeless. He was dead. Everything seemed to still for just a moment. The rain had stopped. Then, the clearing was flooded with bodies, moving swiftly with a purpose. They were all donned in shinobi attire. One body in particular landed next to the dead blonde. Quickly, the man boomed, "Get this man medical attention, now." Many ninja acted out, hurriedly taking the blonde to an unknown location. The man who gave the order looked on forlornly, dread already painted on his face. He had seen eyes such as those many times before. He didn't want to believe that their leader was dead, not yet. He looked down and noticed a wet blanket on the ground. His eyes widened in terror. Fearfully, he picked up the bundle and cradled the baby in his hands. He took off the blanket, took a dry cloak out of a scroll he wielded and placed it around the infant. He quickly felt the baby's chest, applying a small amount of chakra to heal any unwanted injuries. The baby was cold to the touch, but he could feel the faint heartbeat of life. He froze mid-stride. It was only for a few seconds, but he finally realized how grim things really were. He looked around, already knowing something else was amiss. Search for Kushina and the other child. If you see the man that calls himself Madara, inform me immediately. Yes, sir. Sarutobi. An alarmed voice called. Sarutobi looked to the voice, witnessing a man with spiky white hair making his way to the clearing. Jiraiya, I fear we are too late. Jiraiya froze, his face shocked. He shook his head, stern. We lost a lot of good people, I know, but is Minato okay? How about Kushina? Are the kids all right? Sarutobi took in a deep breath. This day made him feel truly old. They had lost a lot of the innocent because of the Kyuubi's surprise attack. It was horrible, loved ones were lost all because of the masked man claiming to be Madara. Knowing that the village might have also lost not only a Hokage, but a good friend as well, really tore at Sarutobi's psyche. We are searching for Kushina and Mito. I have Naruto. But Jiraiya, I don't know if Minato made it. What do you mean? Jiraiya yelled, enraged and scared. This is Minato we're talking about. He single-handedly beat hundreds of shinobi. Jiraiya, Sarutobi forced, face contorted in sadness, where did the Kyuubi go? Jiraiya paused. He looked to the side, his face was grim as realization hit him hard. He closed his eyes and spoke, he told me that if all else failed, he would use the Shikifujin. Oh god no. I applied chakra to Naruto. The seal is there. Jiraiya's mind shut down. His body slacked and he fell on his butt numbly. His face was a mask of horror. He didn't know whether to cry or just scream in rage. I feel the same as you, Jiraiya. It was unfair fate that robbed Minato and Kushina the life of a family they deserved. And it was unfair fate that so many lives were lost because of something we were not prepared for. Kushina, where is she? Jiraiya screamed in alarm. They are still searching for her, Sarutobi reminded. He understood Jiraiya's hysteria. The man was already in the process of grieving from one loss, he didn't need another. That bastard, Jiraiya hissed. His eyes were red, he was livid. When I find him, I'll make sure he pays for what he did. Calm yourself, Jiraiya. Right now, we need to focus on tending to our fellow shinobi. We will deal with that man if he shows his face again. Damn it. Jiraiya screamed. Why now? Why when things were starting look up for them? After all the shit Minato and Kushina had to deal with, why this? Jiraiya. Sarutobi commanded. Calm yourself. Jiraiya stopped his rant and glared at a tree. It wasn't fair, it just wasn't. Sarutobi looked at Naruto. We have to hope that Kushina and Mito are okay. You will have your time to grieve, just wait for the rest of the news. We need to know how much damage has been done. Jiraiya looked at the child too. Poor kid. Yes, it's very unfortunate. What are we going to do? Quote. If Kushina is alive, we will trust Naruto's care to her. But if she's not, she is. Jiraiya protested, standing up on his 2 feet once again. I'm not saying that she's dead, Jiraiya. But we have to be prepared for anything. Jiraiya crossed his arms and grit his teeth, but let his mentor continue. If she is dead, then I have to put the child into an orphanage. I have little choice but to do so. I'm certain that the council will opt to it and wait for Naruto's adoption. Jiraiya sighed. You sure it's a good idea? It will be like Minato again. If you're willing to look after him, I can leave him with you. Jiraiya's mouth thinned. He looked troubled, not sure if it was the right decision to place a child in his care when his spy network was so active. I don't know. I don't want you to give me the kid and I end up neglecting him. He could die in my care. I'm always busy. You know I'd love to be there for him. But right now, there's just too many things going on. Are you sure, Jiraiya? As long as the kid's safe in Konaha, then there's nothing I can do. When things calm down, I'll be here and ready. That is, if Kushina. I understand. You have an obligation to the village. If we were to lose your expertise and your spy network, Konoha wouldn't stand a chance against invading enemies. Jiraiya nodded, although he seemed apprehensive in agreeing. Yeah. Don't fear, Jiraiya. Naruto will be cared for. So what are you going to do about this situation, Sarutobi? I will wait for Kushina's arrival. Only after, I'll make a decision. If she's really dead, I will inform the village of her and Minato's bravery in protecting Konoha, and I will make sure that they are aware of Naruto's sacrifice for their safety. Jiraiya nodded, satisfied with what he was hearing. It's going to be a shocker when the village finds out that Minato and Kushina married and had kids. Sarutobi shook his head, face serious with little effort. They won't know the identity of Naruto's parents. It's for the child's safety. If people were to find out that Minato had a child, then enemy Nin would surely come for him. Jiraiya posture deflated. Yeah, I guess you're right. Sarutobi suddenly smiled gently. Relax, Jiraiya. I'm sure Kushina and Mito will be found soon, then it's all up to her. It will be hard for everyone, I'll admit, but as long as the children are safe, I'm sure Kushina will look after them and remain strong. Jiraiya allowed a tired grin. Yes, Kushina would be found and he wouldn't need to worry about Naruto. It was okay. Everything was going to be okay. I need to take Naruto to safety. Go on searching for Kushina and I'll catch up, Sarutobi said, swiftly hurrying in the direction of Konoha. Jiraiya nodded, going deeper into the forest. After he found Kushina, he would need to see Minato anyway, if only to pay his respects and grieve. It shouldn't be that hard to track down the redhead. If anything, she should still be around the area. The clearing was empty again. No one could be seen and the ominous silence returned. It was deathly quiet. Chapter 1, Living By. It was a dark night on the streets of Konoha. Civilian and shinobi alike were making their way to their homes to rest and converse with family. The lights that had originally lit the grounds of the village were eventually snuffed out by workers. They were sure that no one was around the darkness and made their way home as well. Konoha looked beautiful, covered in different shades of darkness. Everyone appeared to be indoors, and it appeared that nothing eventful was fated to happen. Suddenly, a shadow dashed from one building to another. It would occasionally pause, then move swiftly again. It continued to move habitually until it finally stopped at a dead end. There was nowhere else to go. The shadow shook. It hid itself near trash cans. It waited minutes before it moved and looked around in trepidation. No one was following it. It stepped out of the darkness of the buildings and into the illuminated light created by the moon, revealing itself to be a blond boy, wearing a white t-shirt and black shorts. The boy held his chest sluggishly, walking to a fence that was linked between two buildings. His heart was beating erratically, he felt like he ran a marathon, maybe he did. As soon as he was able, he put his back to the fence, and fell in a heap on the ground. He was dirty, sweat seeping through his cheap clothes. His eyes were bloodshot, dry tears streaked down his face. He looked absolutely horrible and tired, breathing heavily. He removed his hand from his chest, choking back a sob when he witnessed what he was covering. Blood. His shirt was covered in it. And it was his. He wiped his face of any tears and snort with the front of his arm, he didn't even know why he bothered. For a long moment, he looked up, staring dazedly at the moon. His face was lost in confusion, hurt and betrayal. Thinking to a few moments back, he couldn't stop fresh tears from gushing out. He made a valiant effort, covering his face with both hands and wailing softly. But he could not hold it in, it was too much. So he started crying harder, angry tears burning his eyes. He cried and cried, hoping to run out of things to cry about. But in the end, it was all useless. No one would aid him. It was as if he was invisible to the world. No one bothered to give him a second glance. He knew that if he died, then he wouldn't be missed at all. It was horrible for a 7-year-old child to have such thoughts, but life was cruel, and living it was crueler. He continued to cry. He cried until his body could take no more, and promptly fell into a restless sleep. Two figures pitched on a nearby building watched the scene with indifferent eyes. They had seen what had happened, and that's all they did. To any stranger, it would seem cruel for a mother to try and kill her child. But this child was an exception. He was special, and because of that, the Anbu currently watching him didn't bat a sympathetic eye. Naruto Uzumaki once started. If I had just come into Konaha, I would have been fooled and actually think the boy was normal. Normal or not, the other replied, Sarutobi wanted us to keep an eye on the boy. Sure, but at least that's all we have to do. We are to inform him of anything alarming as well. Do you think this counts? What, his adoptive mother stabbing him? No, I don't think it's significant. He can heal himself. That's Naruto for you, always that special one. Yeah, that special demon brat. That was all they exchanged. They remained silently again, watching as the broken boy cried in his sleep. Dot. Dot. It had been 2 months since he had found himself on the streets. Naruto felt lifeless every day. It was always the same routine. He would wake, realize how filthy and alone he was, and would start walking around the village, aimless. If he bumped into any civilian, he would just be glared at but ignored. They all ignored him. No one gave him the time of day. At first, he was hurt that no one seemed to care about him. But soon, it was just a common sting. When he was ever hungry, he would need to sneak around, dig through rubbish bins, and find leftovers of meals that tasted rotten and terrible. He had grown accustomed to his new lifestyle quite quickly, fueled by the desire to live another day, to hope another day. It wasn't long ago when he had a mother who treated him so lovingly. She showered him with affection and always comforted him when he found it difficult to make friends. He loved her with all his heart. And she tried to kill him. Even now, he was still shocked with what she had told him. That fateful night was not the only moment she had tried to take his life. She had poisoned his food before, cursed him to death over and over. How could a mother, who showed so much love to him, be so cruel? He felt his heart shatter into pieces again, and felt every shard pierce harshly into his chest. She broke him, she really did. She hurt him in a way no one else could, and she probably felt little guilt for it. No one would hear him. He could tell the whole world of what that woman did to him and no one would care. Maybe Sarutobi would do something about it, but Naruto doubted the man. He may had come off as friendly, but he had hardly contributed to anything Naruto could think of as worthwhile. He looked around his boxed shelter. He had run out of food again. He would need to get more or risk starvation. He would never resort to stealing openly. If anything, the villagers would kill him if they saw. He had a gut feeling that the villagers were waiting for him to slip up in anything he did. They were looking for excuses to get violent, he could see it in their eyes. Although they never made a move to kill him, their intentions were still pretty clear. He folded his box and hid it under a few bins. He was careful to conserve anything that could provide protection, by any means, against harsh weather. The last time he had been careless, his shelter was stolen from him by bullies. He will never forget that freezing night for as long as he lived. He searched through a few rubbish bins he was closest to. He found plenty of newspaper. That was great, it would provide him heat if he ever needed it on cold days. Now, he needed something for the rain. Living on the streets had taught him a few things on surviving. He had adapted quickly to the harsh reality, carefully making sure that the villagers were oblivious to his activities. He didn't need them coming and taking away his necessities. While they had things to indulge themselves in, he needed everything he found just to survive. He walked cautiously to the entrance of the alley he called home. He had to time this just right, or he will be discovered. The smell of his clothes might pose a problem, but he had no choice. Once he saw an opening, he quickly walked out of the alley and into the buzzing crowd, expertly passing each civilian without so much as being touched. He weaved through them like a maze, carefully striding through the practiced routes with ease. He needed to get close to the market district. There, he would find important foods, fruits and vegetables. Those were more natural, and were easier to eat. He wouldn't have to worry about quantity today. If he was correct in his count, then today's stores would be stacked with fresh batches of natural foods, and bins will be full of the leftovers. As he drew closer to his destination, Naruto licked his dry lips. Finally, after weeks of downing morsels of meat and pasta that could barely fill a 4-year-old, he would finally be able to eat a full healthy meal. Sure, it was only fruits and vegetables, but his mouth watered at the thought. Once an opportunity came, he quickly darted into an alley next to the market district. He made sure to keep an eye on any villager who might have noticed him. No one seemed to be paying attention. That allowed him a sigh of relief. He made it. He looked in front of him, seeing a lot of bins lined neatly in rows on either side of the walls. They were packed with thrown away foods. To anyone else, this was rubbish. To him, it was heaven on earth. He had to be careful though. He couldn't let his guard down for a second or the villagers would discover him. Careful to remain silent and stick to stealth, he opened the first bin he came in contact with and took out tomatoes, carrots, mealies, and peas. He carefully closed the bin and went to another. He took out apples, bananas, and other fruits he could find. After he was satisfied, and had no more room to carry more, he scurried to the back of the alley, the darkness providing plenty of cover from any unwanted eyes. He sat down happily, struggling not to grin with his fortune. He would eat to his heart's content, but he would be mindful to save a few for later. Who knew when he would get another chance for food of this magnitude? He chowed down hungrily, biting and clawing at the food like a starved slave. He bared his teeth as he tore the food apart, hastily guzzling down everything his mouth could get a hold of. He didn't need to worry about water supply. Konaha had outside taps all around and one was just in front of him. Tears gathered in his eyes. He struggled not to cry. It was these moments that were the happiest and saddest of his life. They were happy because he could finally feel full and live another day. They were sad because these were the moments he was reminded of what he had been reduced to, a starved homeless child. But unlike other homeless children who were treated with sympathy, he was treated with scorn. He never understood why he was treated so differently, only that he was just treated that way. There were no explanations, like anyone would bother anyway. He burped committedly when he had his fill. It felt great to be full. Even though times would soon be tough again, he could at least enjoy this moment, however small it was. He got up and went to another bin. He would need food for a few days and this would do. He rummaged for anything else other than fruits or vegetables. A grin tore his face when he found instant noodles that were half finished and still in the packet. Once he removed all that unwanted dirt, they'd be great to eat. Besides, he was used to hand-me-downs. Abruptly, his senses blared at him. He stood straight, unfamiliar with the feeling. It was as if something was calling him, warning him. He gulped in trepidation. Had he been discovered? His had whipped to the alley's entrance. No one seemed to pay the area any mind, too engrossed in buying their grocery. But his senses didn't stop. They told him to look harder, to find something. So he did. He squinted his eyes as he roamed every villager that passed by the place. He was about to give up, but his eyes locked onto someone and froze. It was a woman. She had long red hair and a beautiful face partially covered by a hood. She wore a kimono and walked among the crowd with authority. Naruto didn't know why he couldn't take his eyes off her. She was just like any other civilian or ninja. She didn't deserve his attention. But then, she stopped, and looked his way. When her eyes fixed on him, it was as if time had stopped. She stared at him intently, both in curiosity and confusion. He stared back, surprised that she had even noticed his position. He knew many villagers but couldn't really place her name on his list. Was she new to Konaha? Had she heard to stay away from him? He mentally shrugged in the end. If she wasn't hostile, then he could move on from this like nothing ever happened. But she didn't move, she kept staring at him, more focused than before. Her eyes drank in his form. Naruto was confused with her fascination towards him. She didn't seem malicious, but she didn't seem kind either. Her eyes were calculating, and in a sense, cold. He must have been a means to add something to her apparently boring day. Naruto looked away. Let her stare. Let her scorn. He was used to it by now. No one could be trusted. She stared a while longer, still rooted to the spot. Then, her eyes widened and she looked down at something else. She smiled at an unseen source and gave a nod, finally leaving without a second glance. Naruto sighed in relief. Okay, he was used to villagers staring at him, but that felt different. He didn't comprehend the feeling, so he pushed it to the back of his mind and continued to work. The Hokage Tower wasn't naturally busy today. Ninjas went in and out occasionally, sure, but that was just it. Nothing eventful happened, and the secretary to the Hokage had swiftly gotten bored with the mundane work. She continued to fill in paper, absent-mindedly dealing with guests without looking at them. Today will be no different. What could possibly happen? Excuse me, I am here to see Sarutobi. Do you have an appointment? The secretary boredly questioned. She didn't lift her head to address the guest. Honestly, she couldn't care less who it was. No, I don't, but I think he will make an exception for me. Look, the secretary started, if you don't have an appointment, then you make one. No one is special around here, including you. Okay, I'd like to make an appointment. The secretary took out a pen. Name: Kushina Uzumaki. Well, Kushina. The secretary's eyes widened when she registered the name. She looked up in surprise, shocked to see the red-headed girlfriend of the Yandaime. Kushina-sama. That would be me. I'm so sorry. I'll take you to Hokage-sama right away. The secretary squeaked. She felt immensely embarrassed for talking down on such a respected woman. Hell, she never expected to see Kushina, the supposedly dead Kunoichi, again. Thank you, that would be acceptable. The secretary scurried to her feet, making to guide the Uzumaki woman up the flight of stairs. She was confused, of course. She had so many questions she wanted answers to, but it would be disrespectful. Wait, Kushina said to the woman. She turned around, knelt on her knees. That's when the secretary noticed another redhead. A small girl, looking no older than 7. Sweetie, Kushina addressed softly, are you ready? The redhead nodded shyly, keeping her head down and her hands together. Kushina smiled and took the little girl's hand in her own. She looked at the secretary again. Suddenly, she wasn't cheerful anymore. You may take me to Sarutobi. The secretary nodded, surprised with the woman's cold 180. She led her up the stairs, until they approached the 2 twin doors. Kushina-sama, I am so glad to see you again. We were all worried that you had died. Oh, you were you? The secretary nodded furiously. Yes, thank goodness that you're alive and well. It is fortunate. Now, allow me to talk to Sarutobi. Of course, my lady. The secretary bowed and opened the doors. Hokage-sama, you have a guest that requests your urgent attention. Please tell them to wait. I've got stacks of paperwork that's definitely more than I can handle right now. Hello, Sarutobi. Sarutobi stopped in his track when he heard the voice. It couldn't be. He looked up, staring into the familiar face of Kushina Uzumaki. Kushina. He sputtered, rising to his feet so fast that his chair toppled over. It's been a while, old man. Kushina, is that really you? Sarutobi asked, completely taken aback with a woman in front of him. It was like a dream. She had disappeared 7 years ago, no trace of her could be found. It was a heavy burden on Sarutobi, who had to mark her as dead. If he hadn't, she would have been labeled a missing nin by the council. He thanked God it never came to that. But he would have never expected to see her again. Do you think I'm a genjutsu? You're free to make sure I'm really me. No, he hastily put out. I know it's you, Kushina. There's no mistake in that. Kushina nodded gracefully. Sarutobi looked down, noticing another mop of red hair. Mito. The old man didn't know if fate was smiling at him, but he had never been so happy to see Mito ever since the day she was born. It was her all right, resembling her mother in looks but not mannerism. This must be Mito, Sarutobi said kindly. How are you, child? Mito bit her lip. She looked to her mother and back to the old man. I'm well, sir. Sarutobi chuckled. She was such a cute girl. As nice as this is, Sarutobi, I'm afraid this visit is serious. Visit? Serious? Sarutobi looked confusedly at Kushina. He had so many questions to ask her. He nodded and offered a seat to both his guests. Once seated, Sarutobi started. Where have you been all this time? All will be revealed soon enough. I want you to request a council meeting. What? Sarutobi queried in confusion. She just got back, and she wanted a council meeting. Request a council meeting, there is plenty of things I feel I need to discuss with the aforementioned audience. But Kushina, you just returned to Konaha. I need to know what has happened to you. What have you been through? Don't you need time to rest? Kushina shook her head. Sarutobi wasn't sure which question she was denying to answer. It would be too long if I explained it to you and the council individually. Sarutobi still wasn't convinced. Perhaps you should rest first before seeing the council. There is no point, they will soon know of me and request my presence themselves. I want to beat them to it. Realizing he had no other choice, Sarutobi nodded his head. I will organize the council meeting immediately. Kushina nodded and stood up. Come, little one, let's go. Mito grabbed her mother's hand. Kushina turned her head and looked at Sarutobi again. I will be at my estate. Call me when the meeting begins. Even though Sarutobi was happy for the woman's return, something in the back of his mind was tugging, telling him that he was forgetting something, that something was wrong, but he ignored it. Now wasn't the time to worry about petty things. Kushina was home, and that's all that mattered. He started writing. Kushina walked down the street of Konaha gracefully. She made sure she had a firm grip on her daughter's hand. She gazed at the villagers. Those who recognized her stood still with shocked expression. Those who didn't stared at her curiously. However, her gaze was not that of warmth and mischief. Her gaze was callous and guarded. She acted like she didn't know them, any of them. It was as if they were all strangers to her, and she'd like to keep it that way. Ka-chan, why are they looking at us? The young girl asked nervously, squeezing her mother's hand for comfort. Kushina squeezed back. Just ignore them, sweetie. We'll be home soon. The young girl nodded, but her apprehension had not left her. Dot. Dot. Kushina stared at the Namikaze estate with a plastered frown. The place truly had seen better days. The place was big, with a decoration of shaded cream paint outlining each important section of the infrastructure. The structure itself still remained solid, but looked tarnished and old. Surprisingly, the gates remained unchanging, but were rusted from lack of maintenance. Kushina could only guess to what the inside of her once proud home was like now. It wasn't as luxurious as before. But with time, that will change, along with everything else around here. She looked at the broom she had bought for this occasion. Mito mimicked her, staring at her own little broom that was purchased from the same store as her mother's. Kushina mentally shook her head when she noticed what her daughter was doing. She had told Mito that their home would need a little work because no one bothered to look after it. And she had been right, no one bothered. These people were one disappointment after another. And Mito, the girl, was adamant in helping her mother clean. Kushina had told her to let her do all the work, but her little angel wouldn't budge. Kushina fixed her face and scrunched up her sleeves. Okay, little one, let's get started. Mito nodded in determination, scrunching up her little sleeves as well. Right, Ka-chan. They started cleaning the large home. Kushina felt frustrated for underestimating just how far damaged the home was. She would need to get new beds, new lounge furniture, new cutlery, and just about everything else a home needed. Mito, she called while sweeping the kitchen. Yes, Ka-chan. Her daughter's faint voice replied. From what Kushina could guess, she sounded like she was in one of the bathrooms close to her. Remember to take out anything that's in a plastic bag. Don't touch anything else. Quote. Ah, but Ka-chan, I'm not helping. Yes, you are, Kushina protested. Now get back to work, little lady. Can I still dust and sweep? Kushina paused to consider. She nodded her head. Sure, and make sure that's all you do. Quote. Fine, Ka-chan. Kushina could tell she was pouting, but she wasn't going to fall for it this time. Mito may be cute, but she had a devious side to her, one that Kushina will not be suckered to again. She put all the old cloths and curtains in a plastic bag to think that those sorts of things could look so horrid after years of disuse. She took the necessary items outside of her house. She strode past the gate and put the rubbish in a few bins that were nearby. She looked behind her and noticed her daughter carrying her own bags approaching her. Kei Kushina-sama. Kushina turned to the voice. It was a man, dressed in a standard civilian kimono, which was gray in color. Kushina was surprised that someone actually had the guts to approach her, but she hid it well. Raising a condescending eyebrow, she leveled her eyes on the newcomer. Yes, that's me, and you are. The man fidgeted on the spot, evidently nervous around the widow. He understood her impervious attitude towards him. After 7 years, she suddenly appeared out of nowhere with a child. She must have had quite a rough life before she came back. The man could only guess to what horrors the redhead experienced. I was told by Shinka that you had arrived home in Konaha. Shinka. Oh, he is the man that you purchased those brooms from. He is a very close friend of mine, my lady. I see, and why are you here? The man gulped. He had never remembered a time when he was actually scared to be in the same presence as the woman in front of him, but he felt an obligation to do so. Kushina was well respected around Konaha. She was legendary in her own right. Stories of her bravery to protect Konaha spread like wildfire for years. Every kunoichi looked and fixated on her and Tsunade in the same regard, as mentors, and every shinobi respected her abilities, her willingness to lay everything on the line so that others could see a brighter day. She was their heroine, to the very core of every villager. Well, the man swallowed. I saw that you were taking a lot of stuff out of your estate. Yes, they are old and cannot be used in a healthy environment. Kushina said evenly. Well, I will be honored if you could use my store's furniture to refurbish your home. We have all the necessities you need, and we'll even throw in dining cutlery for you alone. Kushina hummed. How much will all this be? Are you kidding? The man gasped, wide-eyed. For you, my lady, it's free of charge. Really now? Yes, I can never hope to treat you like a commoner. You were together with Minato, so he obviously thought greatly of you. Yes, I agree. If there is anything else you need from us, anything at all, please don't hesitate. We are forever grateful for all you have done for us. Kushina nodded, and opened her mouth to speak, but was cut off with the sudden poof of smoke. An Anbu operative was bowing before her. If it wasn't for the gravity-defying gray hair, Kushina would have never guessed to the ANBU's identity. Good morning, Kushina-sama. Your request for a meeting with the council has been granted. The meeting is underway and the council members await your arrival. Thank you, Inu. I will make my own way to the council meeting. Inu nodded his head and swiftly left. Kushina had analyzed the man's behavior in those few seconds that he had been here. It was subtle, but Kakashi looked like he wanted to be anywhere but near her. Although she really didn't care, she found the behavior oddly suspicious. Come, little one, let us get dressed and go. Okay, Ka-chan. Kushina fixed the man an even look. You may do as you will to this place while I'm gone. The man's face brightened immediately. Yes, my lady. I will get everyone I know to spruce up this place. By the time you're done with your meeting, you won't even recognize it. Kushina nodded her consent, finding the man's excitement strange. Let's change quickly, Mito-chan. Kushina said, grabbing her daughter's hand and going back into the home. Dot. The council room was buzzing with activity. People were talking animatedly, some shouting to stand out from the rest, to make their points superior. Most already knew the reasoning to Sarutobi's summoning. News traveled like wildfire and only one significant rumor was going around. Kushina, former wife, girlfriend to the Yellow Flash, had returned to Konaha. A lot were still shocked that Kushina was indeed alive. Sarutobi marked the woman as dead. Whether he still knew of Kushina's existence, even after marking her death certificate, remained to be certain. I can't believe it. I heard from a friend of mine that she went back to the Namikaze estate. I still find it so hard to believe. How could that person be Kushina? She must be an imposter somehow. Yes, she has to be. The real Kushina would never have a child that did not belong to Minato. They did have children together, or at least planned to. They were married too. What? How come I never heard of this? Maybe because you weren't a member of the council at the time, one member scoffed at the other. Sarutobi sighed in his head. Did really have to deal with these people every day. Damn, he was too old for this, really. The room went silent when a poof of smoke appeared near the door. When the smoke cleared, all the council members felt like they were staring at a ghost. You are all here, I see, Kushina said, cutting the silence with her melodic voice. Some people gawked at her, shocked to see the rumor in the flesh. It really is you, Kushina, Kaharu said at last. I don't know what to say. It is all right, Kaharu-san, we don't need to talk longer than necessary. Kaharu frowned, confused with what she heard, but decided to still exchange pleasantries. Welcome back to Konaha, Kushina. You were sorely missed. I am glad to see that you are well and healthy. Thank you. Is that Minato's Gaki? Sume cut in, trying to calm the tension. Kushina scowled at the Inuzuka, actually forcing a confused frown from Sume. Hey, relax, Kushina, I was just playing around. Not with my daughter. Okay. Kushina, Sarutobi addressed, please take a seat next to me. Kushina nodded and did as requested. She put her daughter on her lap. The little redhead made a whine of embarrassment, but Kushina told her that there were no other seats in the room. Now, Sarutobi, Homura started, I understand there are matters other than Kushina's arrival that need to be discussed. Actually, the reason I called you here was because it was Kushina's request. Oh, Kaharu breathed, turning her gaze to the redhead. And how may we help you, Kushina? Help. Kushina repeated. No, I don't think that's what I'm here for. Kaharu smiled gently at her. It is all right, Kushina. Although we have a lot of question on your activities for the past 7 years, we understand that you need time to adjust to Konaha again. Only after you are comfortable around the village will we start questioning. That is all good to know, but this meeting isn't about getting acquainted with each other, Kaharu. Kaharu's smile dropped. The way Kushina was acting, with her poise and eloquent mannerism, contrasted greatly to the obnoxious brat that Kaharu remembered all those years ago. Ka-chan, I'm sleepy. Mito said tiredly, rubbing her eyes in a feeble attempt to stay awake around boring people. It's okay, sweetie. I'll wake you when it's over. Mito nodded her head and placed it on her mother's chest. She closed her eyes, sleeping soundly. A lot of people found the scene cute. Kushina, Shikaku called, what is this about? Why did you request this meeting? Kushina looked at him. Simple, Shikaku, to tell you all that I'm leaving Konaha. The room's occupants blinked at her, confused with what they just heard. I don't understand, Inoichi said, shaking his head in wonder. You said that you're leaving Konaha. Yes. After you just came back. Yes. But why? I don't want to be tied to a village with bad memories. I want to move on from this. So is that why you never came back, because you didn't want to? No, I had other matters that I was dealing with. Such as, they don't concern any of you. But Kushina, you can't leave. Mebuki screamed from her stand. I mean, we've all been through some pretty bad things, but Konaha is your home. You fought for this village. True, I did fight for this village. However, I can't bring myself to stay here. Kaharu sensed where Kushina was headed, and she didn't like it. Is there more to what you're telling us? Yes, I'm taking everything that I left here, and I do mean everything. Kushina, another council member addressed, since you're technically dead on record, you are not signed to any village. We understand that the Kyuubi attack was harsh, your feelings of loss are mirrored by the village. Although we would love for you to stay with us, we won't force you against your will. Legally, you can leave if you want, but we implore you not to. Kushina put an elbow to the table, cupping the side of her face with it. She was mindful not to shake Mito too much. I'm glad you pointed out those things, because I'm taking every one of my husband's possessions with me. The silence that greeted her announcement was deafening. Sarutobi recovered quickly. But Kushina, Minato was born in Konaha, and died fighting for Konaha. Yes, another member cut in, if you want money, we will be more than welcoming to give you a suitable amount, but you cannot take the Yondaim's legacy away from this village. Things that belong to the Hokage belong to Konaha. You're wrong. As his wife, I am obligated by right to take whatever I please from my late husband. The scrolls, journals and money. A member screamed in outrage, not to mention important documents that has helped Konaha thrive. Every last one of them. You can't do this. Sume barked. Future generations use the past Hokage's experience and teachings to better themselves in this village. Information such as import and export of goods, marketing maintenance, and currency distribution, are all documented by past Hokage. Then use their information. It is impossible. Sume argued. Their methods are outdated. Trade between villages has changed dramatically since the first, second and third Hokage. She is right, Kushina, Sarutobi said. I run my methods of trade through Minato's work. He was genius till the very end. Kushina rolled her eyes and fixed a glare to the members. What you're saying doesn't make any sense. Sarutobi has already admitted to memorizing what's necessary. So what's the problem? You are wrong, Kushina. Unfortunately, my age has caught up to me. I use Minato's findings to run the village, but I did not memorize them. I tried, but every so often, I need to read his journals again as references. Kushina did not seem remotely sympathetic. That's your problem to deal with. Please, Kushina, be reasonable, Homura said. You're risking this village's very existence with what you're doing. Surely, you wouldn't want to harm these people, would you? Please, save your guilty measures for someone without a backbone. This village has nothing to offer me and I will not be used as a puppet for your leisure. Kaharu ran a hand through her white hair. She was trying to keep calm, but was failing. Why are you doing this? Do you need the knowledge of Minato for something? Do you want to learn how he operated as a leader? Or is it to be close to your late husband? I'm sure we can come to some sort of agreement. Learn how Minato operated. I know how he operated. Everything that's in those journals and scrolls is already saved up in my head. I don't need to even read a page. Then why? They were Minato's possessions, and so, they're mine, simple as that. I don't think I need to justify wanting his things to any of you. Everyone was thinking along the same line, who was this person? This wasn't the lovable, loud, idiot woman they remembered. No, this woman was heedless, objective and calculating. Sarutobi could feel the beginning of a headache. He would have never expected something like this from Kushina, but it was happening, right in front of his eyes. People were starting to sweat. The situation could not be any worse. Right here and now, they were at risk of losing everything. Most of them knew that there was nothing they could do. They couldn't force Kushina to stay, because even though they could lift her death and threaten to label her a missing nin, she did not belong to Konaha to begin with. In the end, it would be Minato's marriage to her that would ruin them. Kaharu's mind was thinking a mile a minute. The window was slowly closing for all of them. Kushina had them by the necks, all she needed to do was squeeze to kill them. I think that is all, Kushina said, deciding to end this now. She made to wake her child. Wait, Kaharu yelled. I have an offer for you. There's nothing you can offer M. A position as Hokage. Kaharu cut off. They were gasped all around. Are you mad, Kaharu? A council member yelled. You cannot seriously think that giving her such a post of power is the right decision in this situation. Think about it, Kaharu defended. She is well aware of Minato's way of operations. She can maintain this village's well-being and the Yondaime's possessions would remain in Konaha. Kushina fixed her gaze on Kaharu. What makes you think I want to stay here? Think about it, Kushina. You want to leave because this place brings bad memories, right? Kushina didn't reply. Kaharu continued anyway, saying, Why don't you stay and make better ones? You will have a stable home. You will be respected and your daughter will be assured protection from any harm. What do you think it will be like if you were not around and she was kidnapped or worse somewhere else? Kushina did pause in her refusal when she heard that. Kaharu was right. She would have access to Anbu and her daughter would be protected all the time. As for education, Konoha offers the best education in all the lands. Your daughter's future would be secured here. The only thing we ask is that you look after Konoha as your late husband has. What makes you think I'm the right leader for Konoha? A moment ago, I was ready to leave. Because, if anything, you are fair, Kushina. I can see how mature you've become from the last time we met. Other council members started to discern what Kaharu was aiming for, tie Kushina to Konoha by any means necessary. She had everything they desired. Minato's possessions and his legacy, Mito. To lose all that would truly mean Konoha's downfall. Now, obviously, there were risks involved, such as Kushina driving Konoha to the ground. But Kushina, albeit a little different, was still Kushina. She still cared about others, proof being how affectionate she was to her daughter. Kaharu knew that Kushina would be fair as a leader. She already was aware of how things worked from witnessing Minato countless times. She was strong as well, slightly higher than their most skilled Anbu, Inu. But Kaharu, another member cut in, she is not nearly as strong as Minato. The man's skill was unmatchable, and his sealing techniques could never be measured. Who do you think taught him sealing in the first place, idiot? Kaharu rebuked. That shut him up swiftly. Hell, it surprised a lot of people how much they underestimated the Uzumaki woman. Kaharu turned her gaze to the members. Sarutobi cannot run Konoha forever. Kushina is the best candidate. She is skilled and has leadership qualities that this village needs. Her will of fire is strong and we can be assured that she will not treat her late husband's home poorly. Members started to nod their heads, agreeing with the old lady. All in favor of Kushina as the new Hokage of Konoha. Every member raised their hands. Koharu nodded, satisfied. It is up to you, Kushina. Kushina sat there and stared at each member in silence. She said nothing for a long while. They were patient with her, awaiting her decision, although some failed to hide their agitation. If she indeed decided to leave Konoha, then they would have no choice but to find a way to keep all of Minato's belongings, using any means to make sure those items never left their land. It would be desperate action, but they were prepared to fight physically, if that was the case. Kushina tapped her daughter on the head. The girl opened her eyes, looking straight at stern eyes. She looked up at her mother tiredly. Ka-chan. I accept your offer. I will be your Hokage. Koharu struggled to keep her composure in check. She had won. Now, to cement that victory. As Hokage, you must swear the oath. I understand. Repeat after me, I, Kushina Uzumaki Namikaze. I, Kushina Uzumaki Namikaze. Do solemnly swear my life, my knowledge, my trust, and my protection to the fruition of Konoha. Do solemnly swear my life, my knowledge, my trust, and my protection to the fruition of Konoha. I will treat this village as my home. I will treat the villagers as my children, to look after, protect, and watch grow. I will treat this village as my home. I will treat the villagers as my children, to look after, protect, and watch grow. I swear my loyalty to my home. I swear my loyalty to my home. As your Hokage. As your Hokage. Koharu smiled. She snapped her fingers and a secretary immediately appeared. You called, Lady Koharu, the secretary bowed. Yes, a new Hokage has been announced. Please get all the paperwork ready. The secretary sputtered, new Hokage. Who? Kushina Uzumaki Namikaze. The secretary's eyes bugged out. She didn't miss what was said, at least, she was sure of it. The first time Kushina has been seen in years, and she was already the new Hokage. Oh, of course, right away, ma'am. The secretary blurted out, completely bewildered by what she heard. She disappeared in a plump of smoke. Homura turned his gaze to Kushina. All the papers are being prepared for you to sign. Your inauguration will be in 2 days. I hope you keep those words you said to heart because you'll be repeating them passionately in front of the entire village. Kushina nodded. If that is all, then I'll take my leave. Of course, Kushina-sama, and congratulations. We are proud to fully welcome you back to Konoha. Kushina allowed a small smile. I look forward to working with all of you. She grabbed her daughter and left the room. A lot of people sighed in relief. It was as if that was the closest they had come to certain death. Meeting adjourned, Koharu murmured, her poor body struggled to cope with the copious amount of stress. Sarutobi had promptly left after the meeting. He hurried to catch Kushina. Kushina wasn't that far. She looked back, regarding Sarutobi. Yes. He had finally remembered something important, very important. You're finally back, and you made quite the impact on the first day. It's a natural talent, I guess. So you will look after Konoha, huh? I swore an oath. You should already know that I never go back on my word. That is good to hear. But I'm surprised you accepted such ludicrous offers. I didn't think the offer of Hokage would sway your refusals so easily. Kushina turned away from him. Guess you thought wrong. Yes, I did. You planned all this from the beginning, didn't you? Kushina still had her back to him. Yes, it needed to be done. That is all I'm going to say on that. Sarutobi shook his head with a chuckle. I can't believe that you're the same Kushina. I'm not the same Kushina. I have a responsibility to my child as a caring mother. Looking out for her secured safety isn't uncommon for mothers. And your son. Mito latched her hands to ears and whimpered. Kushina whirled and fixed Sarutobi with a glare. The man froze in place, surprised with the look. He had never seen Kushina colder than that moment. Her gaze chilled his very being. Son. I have no son. With that, she started walking away again, much more stiff than she had been before. Sarutobi blanched. What do you mean? Of course you do. He's. Do not bring up this subject again, she curtly added. Then, she was gone. Sarutobi was still rooted to the spot. He couldn't believe he had just heard those words from Kushina of all people. He stood there, for God knew how long, shocked to the core, confused, lost. He didn't know what to think of her words. He didn't know what to think of her. He stood there. The sun rose slowly in Konaha. It painted the village in a different array of colors, creating a beautiful scenery for any villager to marvel. Workers started filing out of their homes, eager to continue their own endeavors and earn profit. Some looked on, already familiar with the imagery the rays created. To them, it was just another day. Kushina tossed and turned in her bed. The rays were touching her form from the window, but she tried to avoid them. When it became fruitless, she groaned and sat up. She got out of bed, making her way to her new dresser, fitted with a large mirror and dozens of accessories. She paused, realizing she needed to take a shower first. She went into her private bathroom. She did her morning routines, showering, brushing her teeth, and using the loo. She got out of her bathroom. She looked at the new dresser again and approached it. She sat on a chair next to the dresser. She looked at her mirror, sighing at what she was seeing. Oh God, my hair. She took a brush that was on the surface and proceeded to brush her locks. She looked around, analyzing how different her room looked from 2 days ago. It looked brand new now, with a light shade of purple on the walls. She sniffed, and was satisfied to smell clean air, instead of the pungent aroma of drying paint. She had been surprised when she had come home with Mito, and hundreds of workers, from furnishers to painters, were happily walking away from it, proud of their heartfelt efforts in conditioning the Namikaze estate. Each had bowed to her as she passed. She knew that she was respected in Konaha, but the display of loyalty solidified the extent of what her respect and gratitude achieved. The gates, among other things, looked pristine and refined. Everything was carved and decorated with the utmost care. Her home looked like royalty. She was satisfied with their efforts, but offered no thanks. She didn't know where each of them lived anyway, and she wasn't going to go looking for them. She put the brush down, looking at her hair again, much better. She stood up and went to her closet. She took out a bottle of lotion and lathered her body. Once she was done, she took out a white kimono. It was decorated with fine red lines by the sleeves and bottom. It was designed to enclose her chest area and retain her modesty. A red sash would complete the set. These were the clothes given to her by the council, a sign of her loyalty to them. She mentally scoffed, if they only knew. As soon as she was done putting her clothes on, she left her room and made her way down a few stairs. Mito, she called. Quote dot dot dot. Yes, Ka-chan. The voice echoed. Okay, if Kushina guessed right, then her daughter was still changing. Are you ready to go yet? I'm almost done. I'm just getting this sash thingy on. Do you want me to come help you? And no, it's okay. What's the matter, embarrassed by your Ka-chan babying you? Quote dot dot dot. And no. Kushina stifled a laugh, you're not a good liar, sweetie. Come down when you're done. I'll make breakfast. Wait, I can help. Kushina rolled her eyes. You don't have to help with every single thing. I'm your Ka-chan, let me do my job. Okay, okay. Kushina nodded to herself and went into the kitchen. Breakfast had been quick to make. They were really running out of time, so to her shame, Kushina made ramen. Well, she guessed made wouldn't be the right word for instant ramen. Okay, Ka-chan, I'm ready. Mito exclaimed, rushing down the stairs and into the kitchen. Kushina looked at her daughter and laughed. Mito pouted. What's so funny? Kushina struggled to stop. I really should have helped you with that. Mito looked a mess. The sash was tied incorrectly and her kimono was too loose. She looked like she had just woken up. The little girl folded her arms. It was my first time, Ka-chan. Kushina smiled softly. I know, and I'm proud that you tried. Mito smiled. Thank you, Ka-chan. Kushina went to her daughter. She fixed her kimono and expertly tied together her sash. After she was done, she rubbed her Mito's head affectionately. I love you. I love you too. It's you and me against the world, little one. Are you sure you can handle it? As long as I have you, Ka-chan, I know I can. That's what I like to hear. Let's eat breakfast. They sat at their dining table. Mito looked in awe at all the cutlery. That's a lot of spoons, Mito said. Yeah, I'll need to teach you proper etiquette soon. So I put them out for tonight. Etiquette? Mito asked. Kushina smiled at her. I'll tell you about it tonight. Okay, Mito said. Then she noticed the food. She leveled a look at her mom. Kushina smiled sheepishly. We need to hurry, sweetie. Today's the today. Okay, but next time, Ka-chan, please let me help you with the food. No problem. Now, let's eat up. They ate breakfast together in comfortable silence. Konaha was buzzing with excitement. Lamps of disparate colors embellished the streets. Stands of foods and games were slowly being lined up. Today was a day of rejoice, and the villagers were planning on it. This day would be dedicated to their new Hokage and they would celebrate immediately. Preparations were underway. People advertised the inauguration gleefully, highlighting the wonderful day's events, water balloon fighting, knocking objects for prizes, and much more. Some obviously knew that they would get drunk with all the festivities. Before any of the fun could commence, they needed the new Hokage to be crowned first. So they all gathered at the Hokage Tower. Sarutobi, Kaharu, and Homura were situated at the top. They had everything prepared. Sarutobi held his hat in his hands, awaiting to hand his former title to Minato's wife. He reflected back on the conversation he had with Kushina. He was shocked with her attitude concerning her son. She refused to even acknowledge she had one, and that was so confusing to the third Hokage. For one, Kushina had always been fiercely protective to the things she held dear to her. She had no life when she came to Konaha, losing her family, being a Jinchuriki, and surrounded by strangers. But once Minato came along, her life changed for the better and she came to love him and this place. She always proclaimed how family was important. She told Sarutobi specifically that if she ever had children, then she would do anything to make sure that they were safe. So what happened? What was with the cold attitude?